Hello and welcome to the Hardison Cochran podcast. On today's episode, Ben Cochran is going to answer a common question about North Carolina workers' compensation. And this one's a little detailed. It involves when you've been hurt at work, you've received a rating, and Ben covers the options that you have concerning your settlement after you receive this rating. Now, Ben Cochran.
If you're injured on the job and you're injured such that once you received maximum medical improvement, meaning the doctor that's treating you has said, you're as good as I can get you. You are maximum medical improvement. I don't see any other reasonable treatment options. And based upon the injury that you suffered, you're entitled to a permanent partial disability rating due to the injury. Now, those ratings in North Carolina are assigned to various body parts. If you injure your shoulder, then that assignment will go to the arm. So if you suffered a rotator cuff tear, had to have surgery to repair that rotator cuff tear, and the treating physician renders a 10% permanent partial disability rating, and you are back to work making your same wages, that is how the Industrial Commission determines the monetary compensation that you're entitled to as a result of the injury. A lot of folks ask me, it's like, okay, well, what are my options? I don't feel like that's enough. In workers' compensation, there is no pain and suffering. The benefits that you're entitled to are medical treatment, disability benefits if you're unable to work, and the permanent partial disability payments, and unfortunately, death benefits as well. For the permanent partial disability benefits, the treating physician that has been treating you, once they assign that 10% permanent partial disability rating, that sets into place a schedule of injuries. If you are back to work, making the same wages, then that determines through the Industrial Commission the amount of benefits that you're entitled to. You are entitled to a second opinion on that rating. So if one orthopedic assigns a 10% permanent partial disability rating, and you think that you should have received a 20% permanent partial disability rating, then you can contact the insurance company and say, I would like a second opinion on my rating pursuant to 9727. And then you provide them the name of a physician that you would like a second opinion with. You go and you see the other physician for the second opinion. And for the sake of this argument, let's say that they do assign a 20% permanent partial disability rating. Customarily, what we see is that if there is a 10% rating from the treating physician and a 20% rating from the second opinion physician, that is an averaging to a 15% rating to the shoulder. That is then presented to the Industrial Commission on a form called the Form 26A for the payment of compensation pursuant to the schedule of injuries in 9731. And when I say 9731 or 9727, I'm referring to the North Carolina General Statutes. Chapter 97, the whole chapter is the Workers' Compensation Act for North Carolina. So generally what we see is if there is an increase in the rating, there's an averaging of those ratings. Unfortunately, if you went to a second opinion and they give you a 5% rating, there would also, more likely than not, be an averaging of those ratings. So there is a potential that you receive less compensation if the second opinion is not utilized correctly. So you need to make sure that if you are back to work earning the same amount of wages, that the second opinion is utilized wisely.
Listening to this podcast does not create an attorney-client relationship between you and Hardison Cochran attorneys at law. Hardison Cochran does not accept new clients without first obtaining a signed agreement. The information shared in this podcast is for information purposes and should not be intended or taken as legal advice as to yours or anyone else's legal matter. If you have a legal matter, contact an attorney about your specific set of circumstances.